So today I wanted to try playing around with some paints that I haven't tried on the Gelli plate. It's the acrylic golden paints and a couple of other ones. I think Windsor Newton. These are thicker paints. I didn't know how well they would do on the Gelli plate, but since I'm playing around, I decided I would try out these new Dollar Tree stencils that I had cut out in one of my shorts earlier and wanted to see what the design and the colors would look like. So one of the things I'm testing out in this Gelli print is how long these paints will stay wet for and if I will be able to work with them the same way I do with my more liquid paints, I guess the cheaper paints. So I'm rubbing, this is just a piece of copy paper, and I'm rubbing out the design from the stencils as best I can. I didn't get everywhere, but it kind of leaves a nice halo around the images if you don't get it perfectly, which I really like. So it kind of made this second print just from the copy paper. Looks really cool too. Then pulling off each of these stencils. One thing to note if you're using stencils is the paint does stay where the stencil is. It makes a little bit of a lighter color, but it doesn't completely pull it up. So that's why I cut these out the way that I did, because I wanted them to have a little bit of a border, but it had to be some kind of a strategic border. So here I'm using some perfect pearls. I wanted to give a little shine to these feathers. Just using some of my gold, copper, pink, and purple colors. I wanted something that kind of matched with what the colors were already on the feathers, with a little bit of variety. There's no dry time with the perfect pearls, so I was just able to put the yellow and this red, quinacridone red, onto the Gelli plate. And these thick paints, I don't know what it is about these thick paints, but I didn't have the best success with these. The yellow was so thick, I feel like I put the same amount of paint on both. The yellow was very splotchy and the red just kind of pulled up. I decided to just keep going with it because no matter what I got, I was playing around and just kind of experimenting anyway. Then I clipped off some lavender flowers, a little cluster, and pressed that into the Gelli plate. I don't think I had that much working time with this particular paint. It's a very thick paint, very opaque, and it felt like it was drying as I was putting these flower impressions on there. So by the time I put my paper on it to pull the print, it didn't do the best job at pulling it all up. But like I said, sometimes with Gelli plates you have to get going, and even if you don't pull everything up the first time, it's not a fail, it's still success. It just looks really cool. And sometimes these are the hardest things to recreate on a Gelli plate. Like, I don't think I could do this again if I wanted to. It's just, you never know what the drying time of a paint is going to be. Even if you think you've got it down, it may come up all, it may not all come up. It's just, to me, that's why I like Gelli plate printing, because it's such a mystery. I never know what I'm going to get each and every time. Even when I think I know what I'm doing, I don't. So here I wanted to pull up what I didn't get from that other print, but I wanted to put a little design on there. I didn't want to remove the paint from the inside like I did on the last stencil, so I just rolled it with my brayer. I don't know if that worked or not. Again, I'm just experimenting here. Some things work and some things don't, but I'm kind of showing you my experiments, whether they worked or not. And that way, if you're playing around on the Gelli plate and you want to try something or avoid something, that's kind of what I'm playing around with here to see what's working and what's not working. I decided to try putting these pearls all over the back of the print to see what would happen or what that would look like. very shiny and the colors look really nice. I used this cream or ivory color to put behind those pearls and then try to pull the print with that. Now with this paint, this is one of the thinner paints, not the thick paint that I was using earlier. I've had success with pulling prints nicely with this paint. One reminder is if you're pulling your entire print, you'll want to use a fairly thin coat where you can almost see the design underneath, and then you know it's thin enough. But you also want to be careful because you don't want it to be dried out by the time you're pulling the print. The thinner it is, the drier it's going to be, so you got to work fast. Here I decided to just pull that print on the other side of this page. I figured I'd have a two-sided print since they seemed like they would be similar in the colors. Although with jelly prints, you never know what's going to look the same and what's not, so we'll see. Making sure to burnish all my edges here. Even in doing so, it still didn't pull up everything. You can see there's still some stuff left behind, and I don't know if that was because of the pearls that I used, but it does have a lot of shine. It's very pretty. It's muted colors, except on the bottom there where some of those feather outlines came through. So I'm still not picking up what's on the bottom corner of this jelly print. So I'm going to try this Mod Podge. This is matte Mod Podge. Just going over the surface with it. This time I just decided to wing it. This is how you can ruin things, but I decided to put it over that first print that I had done. I wanted to see, I knew it wasn't going to be much color on there because look how muted these colors are on the back. I figured anything that's left on the plate probably isn't going to be all that vibrant and it wouldn't ruin my print here. And I was right. It had like a nice, almost soft tone because of some of those perfect pearls came through on the top right corner, and it was, yeah, it looks pretty nice. I'm happy with it. This time I wanted to try using some of my more liquid navy paint instead of the very thick ones. I just wasn't having good success with those, so I kind of abandoned those and decided I'd see what I can get with this one. I used an old piece of newspaper that I guess it's a magazine paper that I had already used in the past, so it wasn't going to be pulling up any of the design, but it left this really cool texture. And here I'm winging it again, and I'm going to see what it's going to look like if I put that over the soft design. I wanted to give it a little more contrast. It just felt very kind of washed out. It did create design and texture. It almost looks dirty. It looked like mold when I looked at it, but then again, it's kind of cool. So with jelly printing, you might feel like you ruined something, but a lot of times with the jelly prints, if you're gonna make something, a project with them, you'd be surprised how cool they look once you cut them down. I'm always thinking I don't like it, and then once I cut it down to put on a project or use a die cut, I like it a lot better. So just work with the prints that you have and see what you like. And what you don't like, you can recycle. So here I'm using a magazine page. It's a crafty magazine that I got from Dollar Tree, and I decided to use the side that had these spices that have black and white words, and you really want high contrast. This other side here I'll probably use on another jelly print. So this worked really well. I was so excited. I've not always had the best success at pulling I don't know if it's laser prints or just magazine prints, but this one worked really well for me. I do find that the type of paint you use on that base layer makes a big difference. I've been using Mars Black Windsor Newton paint, and it's a pretty thick paint and it does really well. I catch that while it's you have to put it on pretty thick, and then when you pull off the magazine print, make sure you're not pressing in too hard. Here I'm kind of playing with this green and yellow. It wasn't rolling out very nicely for me. You could see my brayer wasn't even rolling for some reason, and that happens when your paint is too thick, so it'll just kind of glide across the surface. It's almost like there's no friction for it to catch on. So this is kind of my fail, but I kept at it and I pressed a little harder, and eventually I got myself a nice blend, and I got it thin enough to make it so it'll make a nice pull. So before I pull this print, I took this texture plate that I had made with my Dollar Tree little wooden, actually I think they're particle board pieces, the leaves, and I wanted to press those in to see, number one, what do they look like, do they work, and what kind of a print would I get in the background. So far I was very impressed with how well those worked. They're laser cut leaves, and they really had a really nice design to them. Now here, I don't know what it is about this print, but I just love this. I love the yellow down to the green. There's a little bit of the purpley red on the bottom right. It's so pretty. All right, so these are the finished prints. This feathery one, then I've got the one with the perfect pearls, and the really cool green and yellow one. I hope you enjoyed watching, and stay tuned or subscribe to my channel if you like watching these jelly prints. I'm trying all kinds of different things. And if you're a jelly print maker or you're new to it, I hope you found this helpful.